Coffee will kick in the next 2 seconds.
Good evening, y'all. We're going to give everybody another minute to jump on. All right. While we're waiting for everyone to jump on, we are live streaming tonight through our studio to Facebook, to YouTube, and to Twitch. And tonight's topic is going to be making large purchases together. So, with that being said, we're going to, of course, try to kick off our podcast with our disclosure, as we try to do every time, because we don't want anyone in their feelings about our opinions. So, here we go.
Hmm.
Ying Yang the podcast does not own rights to any background music or noise you may hear. This podcast is completely opinion based and may include adult content, adult language, and verbiage not suitable for any underage viewers. Information found in this podcast may not contain exact accuracy as it is opinion based. Please listen at your own risk. Ying Yang the
Looks like it was going to try to restart on us, guys, but there's our disclosure as we do every week to make sure that everyone knows what is going on. Now, everyone, please keep in mind that if you're going to comment on anything, please comment on either our studio or our Facebook page. I can't see comments on our YouTube or Twitch as we're live. So, tonight's podcast, I think
Yes.
we've all had this discussion with someone, whether it was in the past, in the present. And if you haven't yet, I can almost guarantee you're going to have it sometime in the future.
Oh yeah.
Large purchases. So I guess let's start with what's your opinion of a large purchase, Sheena?
My opinion is something that's like takes like a commitment. Like when you got to sign your name to a commitment, like buying a house or buying a car, something like say going into a big purchase, like over a grand, say to say, something like
So when we're
you got to
talking about
save for.
this, that's what I was going to ask. Are you talking like large purchases are either something you have to save for or something you take a loan out for? Or are
Yeah,
large purchases all purchases over a certain dollar amount?
like a combination of all that, like large purchases over $1,000, stuff that you have to save for, things you have to sign your name for, like a big commitment, like all of that needs to be discussed. So I consider that like a in-depth large purchase because that takes um it's not just like something one and done, like you're going to buy a box of cereal or something. Like it's something like, takes some depth to
So,
it,
in
some
your opinion,
conversation.
is a TV a large purchase?
No.
Okay. So, in your opinion, a TV is not a thing that you need to discuss with your significant other before y'all buy it. You need
I
a TV, so
mean,
you buy a TV.
I mean, all purchases I think needs to be discussed as on certain on a some type of level, but like I don't think y'all need to sit down and budget and plan out. Or it depends on your financial situation. Um,
True.
if you have, I mean, depends on how you are in that particular friendship, relationship, or whatnot. Whether or not y'all have a threshold. I think, everybody who's in, something together should have like a threshold. Okay, you can make purchases using an account for, let's say 500 or less. We don't need to talk about. If you want it, go ahead and buy it. But anything over 500, like, hey, we need to sit down and talk about it. So TV could fall either way. Like if you just want a small TV, that's $100, $200. I don't think, you know that part. But if you want to go buy like something like a 80-inch TV that's over 500, then yeah, you're going to take that kind of money out of the account, and we need to discuss when purchase is going to be made.
Ooh.
Purchases over 1,000 or
So,
like major purchases, yeah, we need to have a real in-depth conversation about
you
it.
just made a good point, and I'm going to go off of that point. At
What's
what
that?
point in relationships does a joint account come into play, in your opinion?
When both parties wants to make that type of commitment. I don't think you should have a joint account with someone that you're not committed with, not in a committed relationship with.
Okay.
Unless you have, like, you have to have some type of commitment. Like if you're in a business together, then yeah, that's a joint account. That's a business joint account. You have a business partner. You need a joint account. You have a commitment there. Y'all both committed to going into business together. If you're in a relationship, whether you're in a steady relationship or you're in a marriage, and you decide to get a joint account, y'all both should be committed to each other that y'all gonna have long term success and set up the rules to the joint account. Just
So,
somebody you're dating or you're sleeping with doesn't qualify. I don't think you should get a joint account or be talking about it because you're just kicking it with that person and there's
right.
no commitment and there's no need to go out and get a joint account or cosign. Remember that.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that in there for our younger viewers who haven't been through what we've been through in life.
Yes. Oh, you missed last last episode when we was talking about the co-signing. Yes.
Yep. So, all right. So, I kind of want to give my opinion on the two things. So, to me, large purchases are not things like a television or, and I don't even want to put a dollar amount on it. To me, it's things that you have to sign on, like get a loan for, or things that you're making any kind of payments on. Those are what I consider large purchases. And that might just be me. Now, also, like you stated, me and my significant other talk about every dime that we spend. If I'm out and I'm spend more than $10 that day, we discuss that just because I like us to both know where we stand financially. Um, and he does the same. We do not have a joint account. We will not have a joint account until we're married, and then only bill money will go into that joint account. And that's just a personal preference for me, because of what I've gone through in my past. I will never have a full joint account with anyone ever again in my life. I did that with my ex husband. I was cleared out at the end of our marriage, and I was the only one working. So it completely set me back. Um, so I will never, ever do that again where all of my money goes into one account unless only my name's on that account.
Yeah.
Um, So, and but everybody has a personal preference. That's nothing that I've ever hid. And I'm very open and honest. And with my significant other, if, he ever asked what was in my account or asked, what kind of money we had set aside, I would always show him because we do make those kinds of decisions together. Um, and so I feel like for the most part, it makes sense. And we do have a comment. Charles commented in, and he said, it all adds up. At first, it doesn't seem like much, but it'll add up over time. And he's absolutely correct.
Right, especially if you have those saving goals and like as in the relationship as a couple, y'all saving for that house purchase or a car purchase or something big, or you're just saving to have a rainy day fund. You need to be mindful on what you're spending or have that threshold amount saying, okay, it's good to spend under this without permission, but before you spend this type of money, especially if you're dipping into the savings, like if you're dipping into that rainy day fund or the emergency fund to buy a big purchase, you need to be communicating and both needs to be in agreement that this purchase is going to be made. This money is coming out a nice cup. And this money is
Sorry,
coming
y'all.
out
I
of the
wanted to show y'all the
savings.
blender. This is, I don't, a lot of people pay attention, but some don't. I use a different cup on every podcast, and I just happen to have a
That's a
blender.
cool cup.
And so I was like, oh, this is great for large purchases. I mean, a blender is not a large purchase, in my opinion. But that might be different for some people. Blenders are not cheap
Mhm.
either. If you get a good blender, it can run you a couple $100s.
Right. I know Ninja blenders does more than one
Mm.
thing. Then can do everything
Man,
with those blenders.
them ninjas are like the Apple to me. It's like buy the ninja and then buy this upgrade and then buy this upgrade and oh now we got
There's
this. The ninja's
attachment
like
to this.
I. Might as well be I ninja.
Mhm. That part.
um, so what we're going to kind of go over, guys, tonight is the first little while we're going to talk about all the pros, because there are a lot of pros to large purchases with a significant other. We're also going to discuss the cons. And then at the end is when Sheena and I will discuss us. Now, hold on, we have a something here in the comments. So,
Okay.
okay, so and I really like this. So Charles in our comments on Facebook said, "Do not refer to money as your money. It's like training a muscle. It begins to build up resentment. When they say the little things mean the most, it really does." He actually said it sure as hell does, but I at first wasn't going to repeat it, but I want to make sure it's accurate. So, um, and he's absolutely correct. I make that mistake I don't want to say make that mistake a lot because I don't. Um, I use words purposely the way that I use them depending on the situation. Um, with me, the whole your money, like my money, I'll never allow someone access to all of my money again. I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all. I mean it in a the money I have earned. I don't consider anything my money. If my significant other came to me and said, "Hey, we need a new television," we're pulling it from the account. We're getting a new television. You know, I might be mad at him that we need a new television because I mean, it clearly was his fault for gaming too hard on it, right? I don't watch TV unless I just use it for background noise. I use it for emotional support noise. um, so
I don't watch much TV too. Usually I just put on a movie to help me go to sleep, but yeah, I'm really listening to it instead of watching it.
right, yeah, that's I don't now I do every once in a while I'll watch a movie. We watched The Lost City last night. So but anyways, we're getting off track again.
Right.
ADHD. So and Charles is absolutely right. For those of you that can see his Facebook comments, he was saying like once you say your money, especially to your significant other or my money or my this, and your significant other can hear that. He's right. They may say that they forgive you, but they're never going to forget. It's always going to be in the back of their head. Um,
Yeah.
I am in my marriage. I made it a point to never do those things, um, which is what hurt the most because in the end when he decided to leave and take everything out of the account, I expected him to take some. I expected him to take enough to live off of, which would have been probably a little less than half. Um, because I would have never left anyone in that situation, but I didn't expect him to leave it to where I had nothing. Um, so and that's where those decisions for me kind of came from. But enough about that. Let's talk about the pros, the positives. The biggest thing I can think of as a positive is if you're working together with someone and you're both on the same page and y'all are making a purchase like this together, then you are saving a lot of money. If you're not making if you're buying a house and your mortgage is $1,000 a month, and I don't really know where that house is with that kind of mortgage, but if you are buying a house and it's $1,000 a month, then what it comes down to is I only got to put in 500 if we're doing it together. So that's 500 a month that I know needs to come out of my account into either the joint bill account or into paying that payment, and you do the other half. So to me, that's one of the best benefits. What other benefits can you think of?
I was about to say that was the main one I was thinking of just now is taking the burden off of each other. Like it's not all on one person when you're doing it together because you can say let's 50-50 it down the middle and you won't have the burden all on one person. Um, Another pro for making big purchase together, other than that, is I don't know. That's the main thing I could think of. Like all the
So
burden is not on you, and you can save some of your money, and you can do the things that you want to do because you're not taking the burden of having to spend all the money, all of your. I shouldn't say your own, all of the money.
Right.
um and and you're not spending all of the money, and you can save some or do some things that you like to do, and not all of the money is going towards that one purchase, and you're sad because you don't have extra money to do some things you want to do as well. So it takes the burden
Right.
off of that. That's the biggest con. I mean, biggest pro I can think of is not having that financial burden all on one person.
Well, and so let me kind of go over a couple other little pros for you then. Another really big one is emotional bonding. And I say that because
Oh yeah, that's a good
it
one.
creates so much trust when you're able to depend on that other person to carry their end of the deal.
I guess I
That,
didn't think of that, but yeah,
yeah,
that's a good one.
because that's a kind of trust that you don't always get to feel, unless you know
Right.
you're committed.
And that's
It
the type of
also,
trust that I don't really hand out like that, but
well, and you can't, because how many times have you handed out trust like that and been burned?
I did that with my ex and got burned royally. So now I'm like, I don't know if now I'm kind of cautious. Cautious with my trust, cautious with my feelings, cautious with my money, everything.
Right.
So it's like when you find someone that you can have that level of trust with, that'd be awesome because you can
Well,
really
and
let your
that
guard down.
trust alone will also bring you to like less stress. So it adds a level of
Yes.
comfort because if you don't have as many bills on your plate or you're not paying out as much, there's less stress for you to make sure that you have every dime for this or every dime for that.
Mhm.
Because somebody else is there on your side helping you. So it's kind of like a more money, more perks kind of situation.
Yeah, and finances would really break a relationship. It really would. I think that was like how you that saying go, the straw that broke the camel's back type of thing.
Hmm.
That's kind of was like I won't say the main reason why my me and my ex my marriage ended, but the finances was a good bit part of it.
Well, and I think that's something you got to know about somebody from the beginning. And I do want to pause for just a second because Charles threw something in the Facebook comments, and y'all can read it if you want, but he makes a really valid point. Even at the beginning of a relationship, I think this is a great idea. Me and my significant other have already done this. Um, but start with $5, throw it in a savings account. Every time you have a little bit extra money, throw it in there. Because later on in the relationship, later on in that situation, there may come some stressful money moments, and
Hmm.
financial situations are one of the biggest causes of divorce, period. I have never been, and I don't want to make this sound bad, but I've never been dependent on someone to carry me financially. I have worked in management positions and taken care of myself forever. So I'm not really good with the situations where people are like, and then so what happened with my ex when he walked out with all of our stuff and all the money, it completely threw me for a loop because it's the first time in my life I literally had nothing. Now I still had a job, and I was able to come out of that hole in a very good speed, but it was the first time I'd ever been put in that situation. So,
I get it. Same for me. Like when I left my ex, we got divorced. He left me with nothing, so I had to like rebuild from scratch. So that's what I mean. I could understand completely coming from that place why you going into another relationship, why you kind of hesitant or making big purchase like that, or even having that joint account or sharing your finances, because
mhm.
it's like, oh, can I really trust you on that level? Because that level, that's a high level of trust.
It
Yes, not.
is, and you
That's
don't
not
know
trusting
if the other
somebody to go.
person.
Yeah, you can't trust nobody. That's not
Listen,
something
to me,
like
that's the same level of trust in somebody with your kids. You
right. That's
know,
not trusting somebody to go to the restaurant and get your order right. That's
I mean, you
one
can't
level of
force
trust.
people to do that these days. I mean, have you ever heard of DoorDash? Because they'll never have my order right. I am.
Well, your significant other should have your order right. Like if he come back
um,
with your order wrong, then something. is wrong
Well,
with
no,
this
yeah, my
picture.
significant other will know the deal. He'll be like, "Listen, this order wrong. We gotta
Don't
fix
come back to the
this."
house with the wrong order now. Like if I can't trust you to get my order right and you sleep beside me every night, then we have a serious problem. I'm not gonna trust you with my joint account if you can't get my can't get my order right at the restaurant.
So, what do you think is the proper level of commitment? God, this is such a weird question to word because in my head, I know the question that I want to say to you. Like, I
I
know what
was
I
like
want to
proper
say.
way.
Um, okay,
Proper
so I
commitment.
know the question in my head, but for some reason, when it gets to my mouth, it isn't those words. Um, so hold on, let me back up my a million cups of coffee. um,
I'm gonna take another sip of coffee while you try to get this question right.
yeah, I might maybe my throat's dry. Maybe that's why my words are coming out backwards. Um, mm, but I've been talking backwards all day, y'all. I don't know, something's up with me today. Um, so oh, I know what the question was. What do you think is the proper time frame
Mm.
to say we are in a committed relationship, or is it not a time frame but a conversation that determines whether you are in that much of a committed relationship to start having discussions like that? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I don't think it's a time frame on it, and I wouldn't put a time frame on it because you never it just depends with that energy and that vibe you have with that person. Like, cause you
Okay,
have
nope,
these
nope,
you can
stop,
meet.
because I'm gonna hit you with this then. Devil's advocate. And by the
Okay, I knew
way,
it was
let
that
me
was coming.
yeah, and so devil's advocate means that I'm about to throw a tough question at you. For those people that don't know, devil's advocate is a question that someone asks based off of something you just said to kind of make you double think what you just said. So you just said that there's no time frame as long as the vibe is there and the conversation is there.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm a dude. We're gonna say my name is Stanley.
Stanley. Okay, Stanley.
All right, Sheena, you and Stanley have been vibing for the last 10 days.
10 days.
Listen, you said no time frame, so all
Okay.
right. So you and Stanley have been vibing for the last 10 days, and you really feeling him because he really open. He be letting you answer his phone. He be letting you text people back for him. You done gone through my phone. Oh, sorry, Stanley's phone. She went through Stan. She went. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking like that because I'm confusing my own brain. So
You about
everything
to
is
start confusing me.
everything is. I know you're gonna start being like, oh, I like Stanley. Um,
I'm be like, me and Stanley getting it on in these 10 days we done met. We done doing the most in 10 days.
so you and Stanley have been together from sun up to sundown every day. You can check his phone. You can answer his phone. You done met his mama. You done met his kids. You done met
Hmm.
the ex girlfriend or whatever. And she's,
Hmm.
like, we're no, we're just co parenting. Everything seems on and good.
Right.
And then you're in the car with Stanley. He gets in a car accident. His car is totaled. He gets to the dealership to get his new car with his, he pulls up with his rental. He's there to get his new car. And y'all already talking about, maybe y'all talk about getting in an apartment together or something because he moved fast. That's what Stanley
He
do.
moving way too fast.
He
Okay.
is, but the vibe's there and the vibe's right. Do you co-sign for Stanley?
I'm not, but there might be somebody out there who would. I wouldn't.
Why wouldn't you? The vibe was there. The vibe was right, man. You was feeling Stanley. I saw it in your eyes.
He saw it in my eyes. There's a little twinkle in my eye. I might be feeling Stanley, but on me, this is just for me, my opinion. My cosign level is way up there because of my past. I got burned a couple different people for me being too nice and co-signing for people. So now, like, I don't care. Me and what's his name, Stanley, could be vibing on so many levels in these 10 days. We didn't on this roller coaster ride for this 10 days, and we vibing and everything. Love at first sight, but it can't be love at first sight. I'm not even that type of person, but I'm gonna be cautious because of my past. Now, somebody who probably haven't had my past, or maybe not have, all the
Common
trauma
sense.
that, yeah, or common sense might be like, hey, we going to go down here and co-sign. But there's people out there like my parents. They was like love at first sight type of thing. They met each other the first night and they had it kicked it off. And
And by the way, y'all, her parents are still together and they're the cutest people
yes,
in the world. They really
they
are.
in love at first sight. My dad knew she was the one that first night he met her. 3 months later, they were married, and 40, 50, almost 50 years later, they still freaking married. Okay, so listen, it's out there. Like that's her Stanley. She probably could have been like, okay, I know this is the one. Love at first sight. We going to co-sign on cars, houses, and boats and everything else. But
We need to call
there's
her and get her on the
people.
podcast and ask if she would have co-signed for dad
Like,
after 10 days.
that part. I probably wouldn't have bought him a soda after 10 days, but it's okay. That's just me.
Will you grab me a coffee when you're in there? Nah, go get your own
Nah,
coffee.
give me the coffee money and I'll get it while I'm in there, but you going to give me this coffee money. No, but still, see, I'm just hesitant. Like, I have to take it slow. We going to go real slow. And then, like, once I get comfortable, and then I don't care if we vibing. We got to vibe for several months of vibing. You got to be consistent. This thing right here, like, you got to be consistent. And I need more than 10 days of you being
So,
consistent.
let me ask. I'm sorry, y'all. My dog keeps moving my chair around again. She's having a bad time with the rain outside. So,
Uh-oh.
yeah, it's raining. If it gets much colder, it's gonna be snowing.
See, that's why I'm not
But
coming to the mountains to about April, maybe May.
uh,
That's too cold.
listen, I understand. No, I don't want to leave my house when it's like
No,
this.
I'm gonna need about 3 hoodies and a coat. We're gonna have to buy me
No,
a couple of hoodies.
listen, out here you got to get like an aluminum jacket thing to put on and get it warmed up by the fire before you walk to your car. By the way, I don't really have one of these things, guys. I just make it up in my head every time I have to walk from my front door to my car that I have on this really warm aluminum jacket. And I don't. I just have on like my work jacket with another jacket on top of it. And then when I get into my car and the heat starts working properly, I peel one of them off. But because of
I'm
that,
trying
I
to
have
figure
like
out if
stitched
there's
jackets
such a
in my
thing
back
as
seat.
aluminum jacket. Like, where do
There,
you get this
listen,
aluminum jacket from?
there should be. There should be such thing as an aluminum jacket. In fact, it should be a large purchase that you make as a family. I will invent the aluminum
Every member
jacket,
of the
guys.
family gonna have an aluminum jacket.
Yes, yes, it'll be like we'll sell family packs. Um, it's
You might be on to something.
you just put it in the oven or something and let it warm up for the first. I'm sorry, y'all.
Okay, you
I'm too
had me to you
tired
had
tonight.
to you put
uh
that in the oven.
I'm super
Okay.
tired tonight, I guess. But yeah, no, I mean, but listen, aluminum foil doesn't burn your skin when it's been in the oven. So maybe you put your aluminum jacket in the oven, it gets warm inside, and then you take it out and it doesn't burn your skin because aluminum foil doesn't burn your skin when you touch it when you take it out of the oven. So I think it
Interesting
makes
thought.
sense. I don't
Okay.
know what the inside would be to make it warm and not just aluminum foily. But that's a discussion for another podcast when we invent it. So inventors, so every podcast I tell somebody to reach out to me. I need people that can help me invent an aluminum jacket for the oven that you then wear to go to your car.
Yes. Email Yang. Okay,
Yes,
because
yes, because
Yang
yeah,
is
don't want no
not
part
gonna
of it.
I don't want no parts of that. So just email Yang.
All right, yeah, just hit me up on the website, y'all. It's no big deal. We're gonna invent it. Um,
Okay. All right, back to the
sorry, my
discussion.
significant other came to save me from the dog. I think so. Um, so my next question for you then, because of everything you just said, and y'all,
Oh.
we can skip the whole jacket conversation. We can pretend we
I'm
didn't
about to
hear
say,
it.
okay, you gotta pull me back because now I
No,
was
I
on the
am, I
aluminum
am.
jacket.
So we were talking about um large purchases with your significant other, and for you, you were saying, like that early in, 10 days in, it's a no go. Nah, homie, get your own coffee. Um,
Pretty much. Now, I mean, he
So,
dying of thirst. I might be, buy him a
so let me
water.
ask you this. Why is it so easy to do a large purchase or a large, yeah, I'll say a large purchase with a business partner?
Why is it easier? Because y'all have a common goal. Y'all have a business commitment plus a common goal to make money, a return on your investment.
But isn't that what a relationship is too?
Technically, I guess you can say that. But no, that's like a catch 22. Technically, it is, but you don't have that personal mindset or that personal in your feelings involved in business. This business, we're here to get that return on investment, to make a profit. This is about money versus in the personal relationship, it's a lot of feelings involved. And see, when you bring in feelings to it, then a lot of things go out the window. A lot of things get, bent. A lot of rules get bent, twisted up. Some things unslide underneath the table, type of thing. I guess. I don't know. It's just different. I guess because it is that personal aspect of it. To me, it's just different. What you think?
I think um I think that if you're not in a relationship where you feel like you're getting a return on your initial investment, or that you can feel the same way that you feel with a business partner, that you might not be in the right relationship. And hear me out on that, because I'm not saying that I'm not saying that you should think of your significant other as a business partner. I'm saying that whoever you are dealing with, whoever you're dealing with, you should trust them more than you trust your business partner. So here, I'm gonna give you the perfect example. Okay. You and I are actually the perfect example, because we decided to go in together on this podcast. You and I started a business, and it may not seem like a business to other people, but it's a business to you and I. We invest time, we invest a lot of effort, we invest money to, eventually make a certain amount of money. Um, and So that's a business, and me and you didn't sit down and sign a bunch of contracts, and maybe we should have, but both you and I hold each other to such a high standard that we didn't feel the need to do that. Plus, it's not like we bought a $10 million building. We bought webcams. So it's a lot different. But my significant other, I should always be able to trust more than you know,
Yes.
because that's my significant other. We share a
That's who you
home.
lay next to
You
every
and I,
night.
right? You and I don't share a home. So that's why I was kind of playing devil's advocate when I was bringing up the whole business thing, because, you know, if you can't get that same amount of trust out of your significant other, maybe you treat them like a business partner in the beginning. And maybe that works for some people. I mean, I know people that have done that. I had a friend that dated, a guy for a while, and they bought a car, and during that whole time when they bought that car, they both signed a handwritten agreement, but they both signed in front of a notary that each of them owned half of that car. And when they split at the end, they had to sell that car and split the money. And that was the best thing that they could have done for themselves, is sign that agreement, because if not, it would have been a whoever's name it's in
Have to take
kind of
it.
situation. Yep. So that's kind of the hard part for me as an individual, is people will say all the time that we are quick to trust other people in a business world and less willing to trust people in our personal lives, which is generally true. You
Yeah.
know, if I could figure out a way to open a hippie gypsy fairy coffee library internet cafe out here in the mountains, that's that's what I'm gonna call it, y'all. That's gonna be the whole name of it, okay? And I had to do it with a business partner, I would be completely okay because I know I could run it. I know I could make money. The biggest thing for me is I don't have the initial money to open something like that. So, but if I found someone that had that kind of money that wanted to open the same thing, they would have to make that initial financial investment for me to then run it. And I could do that without a problem. But those are where those kind of situations come in. But it's kind of the same with a relationship, like
But why do you think that people are more trusting with a business partner versus their significant
contracts.
with their significant other?
Contracts. That's what I think because there's a legally binding contract that you sign as you walk into a business relationship with someone. If me and you were to go tomorrow, Sheena, and purchase a building for our podcasting, then we would both have be responsible for part of that money for that building. So naturally, you and I would have a contract amongst us that should one of us quit the podcast or something like that, then they would still legally be responsible for this amount of money.
That makes sense. Because you think about it, like you go into a business relationship and you have those contracts in place so you won't be left hanging, and you have that security that you're
Hmm.
not going to be left hanging because you have that contract in place. That makes sense where you going and looking at it as a personal relationship or a personal aspect. There's no contract and you don't know if you're going to be left hanging. And just like
Hmm.
the other example you just gave with they split and had to sell the car, like that could be a really good con, like, to signing a big purchase. Because what if you don't make it? What if you do separate or go through a divorce? Then you have to figure out what you're going to do about this big purchase. How we're going to divide it, or how it's going to impact it. Because big purchases impact people for long term. Like if you go in with someone that you're not married to and buy a house, and y'all break up, then you have to dissolve that house. You have to do a lot of things. Shoot, it's hell trying to dissolve it when you're married, and then you have this house with someone you're not even married to. And I mean, there's people out here does it. I know there's a bunch of people who go in and buy houses with people that they're not in a long-term relationship with or a committed relationship in, and then you break up a month or a couple months down the line, and then you're looking at it as like, what I'm gonna do with this big ass purchase that I just bought?
Yep. That's and
A lot
that's
of wasted time and a wasted money. But I think that there's people are hesitant in their personal life because there's not that security. There's not that contract. That contract gives us like a security blanket. If we have
right
more
cuz
of a security,
the only thing consistent at all in life is change. And it doesn't matter how good of a person you are, how nice you are, how much money you make. If that person's not the right person for you, it's not going to work. I'm not cocky by far, so don't ever think that. But I know who I am as a person. I know how good of a person I am.
hmm
So for someone to say like, "Oh, Amanda, it's your fault your relationship with your husband didn't work," they can kiss my butt because I'm a good person. I know I'm a good, and I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm simply saying him and I were not meant for each other.
right? I get
So
that.
it was never going to work no matter how much we put into it, no matter how much we tried, no matter what we would have done, it would have never worked because I was not able to find my soulmate until after him,
Right.
and honestly, like even as a logical person now, I love love. I don't know if y'all know what that means or understand what that means, but
You
I am
love
the
love.
kind of, yeah, that's what I feed off of. If I'm loved correctly at home, I am the best version of me I can possibly be in my life. I really am. If my love life at home is going to crap or I'm super single, then I'm distracted and it shows in my work and everything else that I do because I'm not the best version of me. Um and that's just it is who I am. It's always going to be who I am, because of my mental illnesses. And that's okay because I found someone who understands that, and who is able to provide that.
I get that.
Um, but even with that being said, it doesn't mean there's not those same moments. I don't talk about my personal life with people, which is, I think, one of the biggest rules of life. Um, besides like calling my friends saying so and so was annoying. Um, you know, that's I usually call sister y'all. She's tired of hearing it. Um, but
Oh, so and so is annoying. They're acting like a poopy head today.
well, and it's funny because I usually just say he's acting like your dad, and because her mom always says her dad's annoying. Um, so, um, but that's kind of what it comes down to with we don't I don't talk about my personal life, so people don't know like what my boyfriend does, or how he makes money, or any of those things, because we don't discuss things outside of the home. And so, being that we don't do stuff like that, people have no idea, where his money comes from or what he does. And people will be like, "Well, Amanda, you're out trying to do all this on your own." And I'm like, "You have no idea." Like, cuz it's not like that. Um but that's what people see, what they want to see, and believe what they want to believe. That's what
Oh yeah,
happens.
they assume. People assume if you don't tell your business, they'll make it up for you.
Right, which is absolutely hilarious to me. I love hearing rumors about myself. Um I
Say
can
what you want
actually
to
give
say.
I can give you
I
a
ain't care.
really good opinion, like a rumor that started about me, and it was here in this town. It completely blew my mind. Um,
Really?
and I found it out because one of my tenants told me that one of my other tenants had told everyone that on the weekends I dance for money. And I was just like, have you seen me? Like, do I look like I got like a dancing for money on the weekends kind of body? Like, I don't.
Hey, really? Mm, that's interesting.
Like, I don't know. Maybe if I was dancing at the Atlanta Little People's Club, or the
Ouch, that's hilarious. I don't even care if people make up stories about me. I
oh, I
like to
don't
hear them
either.
because I'm a writer. I'm an author. Like shit, give me some ideas. Like really, they said that
Right.
about me. I'm gonna use that in the next story. What you talking about? That's a good idea right there. I need some ideas. So you go ahead and talk about me. I ain't care. At least I know
That's
the
so
truth.
funny.
And only person that I'm worried about judging me is the man upstairs, and everybody else kiss my butt. I don't care.
So I need to tell you something really funny about that saying.
What's that?
I We lived in a duplex when I was younger, like 91, so I would have been 6-ish. We lived in like a duplex, 6 or 7. And my dad would make comments here and there, and he would say the man upstairs. My brain was convinced that there was another man that lived in our house, and that I just didn't know where he was, and like maybe when I was upstairs he was downstairs. But it used to bother me really bad, at least, like, mess with my anxiety when people would say the
Oh,
man upstairs, because my brain was like, "How come everybody else can see this man except for
and I
me?"
can.
So, when you just said that just now, it kinda brought back that
Oh, I
anxiety that I had as a
triggered
kid.
you.
Like, "Oh my god, the man upstairs, who is he?" Oh, that was so funny.
Oh my
Um
gosh.
but but no, so I mean, back to making large purchases.
The
We're
topic
gonna
of the
go ahead.
day.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move into cons, because we're kind of already there. I mean, the biggest con is you don't know how much you can trust your significant other. What
Mhm.
if they have, and this is just me, but what if they have a different way of spending than you? Like, here, I can give you the best example ever. I have a friend, no names, but I have a friend, and she's married. and she tries to budget and plan out all of her money and her expenses so that she can make sure that money is allocated correctly for the bills and the food and the kids and stuff like that. So, um, she married a man without knowing that he feels like if the money's in the bank, it can be spent.
Well, see, that's what you have to figure out during the y'all these what y'all call these dating phase.
Right.
And I don't understand, like, people don't want to have these hard questions in
But
their
when is it proper to
relationship.
have that hard conversation? Like, I can tell you that.
Girl, as early as the first date, because if y'all not
Oh,
compatible
all right. Have you had that conversation with your significant other
about finances,
about if they're the saving kind, or if they're going to plan or budget, or what
oh
they do
yes,
with their money, and why they shouldn't spend their money on ridiculous things?
yes,
Now, do y'all see eye to eye on those things?
yes,
Do you really? And I only asked that because you just rolled your eyes on live video
I
as you
did.
said that to everybody. So I just want to make sure that you know that you did that before this video goes on the entire internet.
I
Um
didn't roll my eyes. I was now, girl. You know what you made me think about? Oh my god, this other job I used to work on, and we used to be in meetings all the time, and people used to be like, "Shanny, did you see your facial expression in that meeting?" It's like, did I see my facial expression? Like, no, I didn't see my own facial expression. Like, how was my face? He was like, you should see. Everybody be cracking up at me in my in meetings because of what my face does. Listen, my face does stuff. Anyway, that made me feel like I'll be like, really? I really didn't mean that, but my face got a mind of its own. My face does whatever it wants to do, and
So, no, but I think that's super good that y'all have had that conversation. I can tell you that I have been with my significant other for over 3 years now. We're doing good. We're in a very healthy relationship. Um, we cohabitate, which for those that don't know what that means, it means we live in the same house. Um, and we, put all of our money into one big bucket. Not literally. We have a bank account. Well, I have a bank account. He has a bank account. So we use banks, not a bucket. Um, him and I have never had the
a
conversation.
bucket might be good though.
This it really might be good. So we
It
have
might be
the
better.
I have a jar that says what the IRS missed that we put all of our change in. Maybe that's my bucket. um, but and that's one of the biggest things is we haven't had that conversation, but we've also never been in a situation where we've needed to either. There's not been any very large purchases. I think the biggest purchase that we've had as individuals, like together, was deciding to rent the house we rent. um
But I think
and
you should have
that was
people
more
should
of a
have that
necessity.
conversation early on so you know what type of person that they are, like what type of if they're on the same level as you. Just I just think that's needed because like I've been through that with my ex. Like he was the type of person that he's gonna live above his means. He's gonna spend every dime. As long as he had it to spend, he's gonna spend it. Me, I'm more conservative. Like I like to have a plan, a savings. I like to budget, save, and put my money up. I don't like to spend all of it just because it's sitting there doesn't mean it needs to be sent because
Right.
you never know what might come up. You might have, tire blowout with everything. If you spend everything else and you don't have no money to your tire blow out in the middle of the week, and then you're looking at like, and I hate to go ask people for money, so it's like you shouldn't spend all of live above your means. So it's like that's
Right.
clashing. So that's why we had the bigger. One of our biggest problems with finances because we always clash. We always bumped heads. With me, I want to have my money in the savings account. for that rainy day. But he was like, "Oh, we have the money. Let's just go spend it and buy TVs and the stuff that we don't really need because we're living above our means." So that's why I said, like, going into any other relationship or any relationship, like, that's conversation should be held early on so you know what type of person. So if you know that you're not compatible with somebody, you're more conservative, you probably shouldn't be dating somebody who's going to be out here living above their means and not even thinking about, saving a penny. Just thinking.
So there's two things I want to say to what you just said. Number one is him and I never had that conversation, but I will tell you, we've been living together now for 2 years. We've been dating for three, living together for two. And living together for those two, I probably know his spending habits way better than he knows mine. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all. I'm just out of the house a lot because of the jobs that I work. Um, and so he doesn't see my little everyday purchases. Like, he doesn't, I don't tell him every time I get gas and stuff like that. Um, Whereas I know that if he has $20 on Tuesday and I come to him 10 days later and I say, hey, babe, can I have $20? He's going to still have it because unless he is absolutely forced to, he saves money better than anyone I know. So it's great for me. Um, and I know that about him. And I also know if he spent that $20, he spent it on something like, oh, I had to fix the lawnmower or, something that had to be done. So that's the kind of the good part is you do learn their habits if you don't have that conversation. And I'm not really good with, I don't want to say confrontational conversations, but I'm not good with conversations that make me super passionate because I will come off very mean. And even though I'm just trying to be direct, I don't know how to calm myself down, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know how to tone it down to have that
Yeah.
conversation. Like
But
it
there's
would
a
be
lot of
more
people out
like,
there like that that avoid the conversation because they don't want to have an issue with confrontation or being direct or feel like they're gonna be starting an argument if they say something about spending or something. But it shouldn't that
so.
yeah, but y'all should be if you're in a relationship with someone, if you're in a committed relationship one, you should be on some type of comfort level to have these difficult conversations with. Like
So,
because
and
if
me and him, I think the reason me and him never really had it is this was the same man that was getting paid and handing me money as he was getting paid. And I don't mean that in a like negative way whatsoever, but every time he made money, he gave me money. Like, here, put this up, or here, this is towards whatever you need it for this. So from the beginning, anytime he had money, he was handing it to me. So I never felt the need to be like, okay, how are you going to help with us financially grow? Because every time he had it, it was being handed. So I think in my brain, I didn't want to have that conversation to reassert something he was already doing because then it just kind of sounds like nagging. You know what I mean? But I agree that the conversation should be had. I wholeheartedly agree. I also agree that you're talking earlier about not only do you need to have that conversation in a committed relationship, but you need to have that conversation just in general. Like even with your friends, like if you have friends that go out shopping every weekend and they have the means to do that, you need to just be like, "Hey man, I'm not that person." I don't have the kind of
yeah,
means to go shopping every week. I got bills.
some people
um,
there's a bunch of scenarios in life. There's a hard conversations you don't want to have but need to be had.
right.
And it just saves you a lot of heartache. Just like if you go out with a group of friends and you need to know we gonna split the check. Who's if we pay each man for themselves or we going in on that? So that need to be said before we sit down and order. Like how are we splitting the bill or is every man for himself? Because it's not gonna happen if this person over here run up $200 worth of shit. They ordering wine and everything, and then we sitting here have to split, and then I only got a salad. No, this is not gonna happen. 'Cause I'm gonna pay for my salad and walk out. this conversation wasn't had in the beginning. Like that's how I'm budgeting. Like if I'm walking to a restaurant, I'm on the budget, so we have to have this conversation ahead of time. And this should be like that in relationships. Like especially if you're in a committed relationship with someone, you should be on a comfortable level if you're going to be on a commitment to have those hard conversations like, hey, I want to go out and buy this, or hey, we're going to spend money on this, or do we need to sit down and talk about this because I have this coming up.
Right. See, and that's the open communication thing is the biggest thing. And that's part of the cons, honestly. Like if you also are in a relationship where there's not open communication at all times, then how do you really do that? Like how do you randomly bring up like you can't get a car with somebody and have a car note and be too afraid to tell them that it's due.
That's ridiculous. Though I know there's probably somebody out there that's probably like that, but that
No,
is
absolutely there are. Listen, I
ridiculous.
know thousands of girls right now under the age of 21 that probably have co-signed on some dude to get a car and they are too afraid to tell him that he needs to pay the bill.
Listen, if you're
Um,
too afraid to say it verbally, then you should put it in a message, but it should be said some kind of way.
right.
Hey, add it to his calendar, but shit, it should be said. Don't you? What you gonna do? Pay it yourself?
Mm-mm. See, and that's the problem. Like the biggest con that I can think of in large purchases in a situation like that, like when you're married, of course, large purchases are going to happen. But at that point, you were as one. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different. But when you're just in a relationship with somebody, large purchases need to have a side. There needs to be a logical end game just in case things don't work. And if you don't have that, like I love my significant other. Regardless if we get married next year or 30 years from now or never, that is who I plan to spend my life with.
Oh, I got a devil advocate question,
Okay,
or I
one
just have a
second.
question. Go ahead.
And all I was going to say really quick was if him and I bought a house together next year, I would ask him to sign a side contract. Not to be dirty, not to be grimy, but that, and all I wanted to say is that we both have the option to buy each other out, or whoever is the one that creates the reason for the breakup should be the one to leave. And that the other person has the option to buy them out, or
Yeah,
you sell the house and split the profits.
yeah. I mean, I co-sign on that. I mean, that's only fair. Even if you're married, you probably should have some type of um verbiage, contract in place for that. Like if we end up getting divorced, what we're gonna do with the house?
Right. Yeah,
How
if
we're
you
gonna
did it all
divide
from
it.
the beginning, then you wouldn't have to. I
There's
mean,
no
honestly, you could put it
questions.
in a prenup, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Then there's no
So, what was your
issue.
question?
Oh, girl, I gotta remember now. My brain set up. No, I now remember. Girl, I'm about to say it's almost after 12, almost 12. My brain set up. But I was gonna ask, do you consider loaning out money as a large purchases? Or if your significant other decide to say, "Hey, I learned loan this money out to one of his friends or whatever and didn't tell you," or does that consider,
I
a large purchase
absolutely
or something that
think
needs to
that
be
is
discussed?
absolutely think. So, I can tell you, um, so my significant other had a family member that needed to borrow some money before. And before I would loan it to that family member, I went to him and I was like, hey, this is the max amount that your family member would need to borrow from us. This would be the minimum. Are you okay with both of those numbers? And if not, what number are you okay with? And what kind of pay repayment system are you okay with? And we had that discussion in full disclosure from the beginning because I was super afraid that it would come back to haunt me if I didn't. And the last thing you want to do is go to your significant other later and say, "Hey, I did this. My bad." You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I completely think that's a discussion that should be had up front from the beginning. What's your opinion on that? Do you think like okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say I called you. You know me and you are super close. We're talking all the time, 24/7. So let's say I called you and I said, "Hey, can I borrow $200 till next payday?" Would you then call her dynamic is different. Her and her significant other don't live in the same house yet. So they're not splitting all the bills and things like that. But y'all have been dealing, and I don't even know exactly what level her and her significant other are on. Like we don't really talk all of that personal stuff. So, but with the level that y'all are on, would that be a conversation you would call him and have with him before you made a decision with me?
Yes.
Okay.
Only because I would say yes, because we have some future plans together. So that type of commitment on myself is gonna like overflow and trickle on our future plans that we have and we're making together. So I would, out of respect for our relationship and our plans that we have that we're making together, I would be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. This is how I can work it into the budget. This is how it's going to affect my thing, our thing, and or whatnot like that, and just make him abreast of it and get his opinion and make sure that he's cool with it going forward. But if it's like, something you just dating and you got don't have no future plans together, then your money is your money. You can do what you want to do. But if you're in that type of relationship or commitment, you have that where you're, even if you're not married, but y'all have a commitment where y'all working towards something. I think it's out of respect should be brought to that person, but it all depends on what type of relationship you
Do
have.
you think that, and I'm actually asking this for a reason, do you think he would do the same?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that I think you're wrong, but not because of him. I don't know him enough to say that. You know what I mean? Um, I have found that a lot of men think very differently on that subject.
Mm.
To them, it's more like if the person needs to borrow a large amount of money or you need to help them with the loan for the person, that they feel the need to have that conversation. And I'm the kind of person where if I loan you $5, I'm telling my significant other, like, hey, I loaned so and so $5. They're gonna pay me back next Friday. You know,
See, I'm different, but I get that because like my ex, like would not tell me. Like he would tell me after the fact, like, oh, so and
that's how
so
my
borrowed this,
significant
or
other
I
is.
just, I'd be like, where's your half of the rent? Oh, I had to borrow, let so and so borrow it, and I ain't got it. Like what?
So that's how my
But
significant other is too.
so so I get that. Like my ex would never. I would always find out after the fact. So I get that. Um, dang, I totally just lost my train of thought. But
I'm gonna call you out on something.
okay.
Has there ever been a purchase larger than a couple $100s that your current partner made without your knowledge until after? I already know the answer to this one, so I'm just waiting.
You got me thinking. Since you said you already know, now I'm thinking like,
And my
I'm
whole point behind it, you don't even have to answer it. My whole point behind it is because men think differently. I really think that we
yeah,
should rehab this conversation with a man on one day to
right.
see
I want
how
to say no, but like I'm thinking like has he really?
lottery.
Oh, well that I don't really consider that a big purchase though.
Yeah, if it's more than a couple $100s, you don't think it's a big purchase?
I don't think that's a big purchase because I already factored that in.
But that's kind of my point though. Like
But
he
yeah,
didn't call you and say, "Hey, I'm gonna run in here and get a couple $100s in scratch
right.
offs," or you know what I mean? Or I'm gonna run in here. I don't even know exactly how much money or anything like that, y'all. I made all that part up. But he doesn't call you about those things because men think differently about those kinds of things. Like if your brother had $500 in his pocket and he went to the flea market and they were selling an 80-inch TV for 400 bucks. Do you think he's calling me first?
Him, yeah. You don't think so?
Not if he's already got the cash on him. He ain't making that
And
call.
well, but you probably already gave him the green light to spend it.
Well, I mean, so I don't want to. I don't live in cash. I personally hate cash. If you give me cash, I'm going to spend it because it's there and I want it out of my wallet. Um,
No, I'm the complete opposite. I'd
oh,
rather have cash so I
I
can budget
hate
myself.
cash.
If I'm with my debit card, I'm gonna keep swiping it, and then I'm gonna be
Oh, see,
like,
I won't. I'm the exact opposite. I hate to swipe my debit card. So it's easier for me to save if I don't have cash on me. Uh, but with him, it's more of a, well, I already have the money, you know? So yeah, I guess kind of maybe he feels like it's a green light because that amount of money is still in his possession and not in an account or something like that. That he's like, okay, I'm gonna do this. But it, I really think that men have a different opinion, and I would
we need to
really
get a
love.
man on so we can ask these questions. Cause now I want to know why.
All right, y'all, swivel
Why they
five. Are
don't
any men
feel
watching right
like
now? Let me
they
look.
need to discuss
Let me look across
big purchases
all of our
with their
platforms
significant
and see
others.
if
Probably because they think they're the man of the house and they brought in a certain amount of money to the table, so they had the right to spend it without discussing with us first.
maybe. Yeah, that actually makes sense. Okay, so we don't have any men across the platform watching right now that I can see. So that's okay though. We will definitely get a man's opinion and hopefully get that man to give us some kind of insight on if men think differently than women do on this category because
Right?
we don't really know.
I'm just making assumptions. Probably because men think that women should submit to them, that they can make decisions about the money without asking the significant other, because they might think that women, I hate to say beneath them, but and they don't have to, and it's their money. I don't know. I'm just rambling.
That was my I wish he would face, just so we're clear, guys. That was
I
my
wish he would.
that
I'm
was
just trying
my
to think, like,
that was
what
my
would be a
call a lawyer
logical
face.
reason why they wouldn't discuss purchasing? I don't know. That's interesting.
And it's really interesting that we'll definitely get an answer. You know, that's an answer I feel like somebody that rewatches or re-listens to the podcast or
Yeah,
something
we
like
need to
that.
post that on the page. Like
I
after
will.
we do the uploads, post that question.
Yeah, I'll get that question out there today, so hopefully we can get some answers. Now, I do want to let y'all know there's a couple of things that are going on as we close out today's podcast. We got some announcements coming out this week. One of those announcements is Ying Yang the podcast is moving to 8 p.m. on Saturdays starting the first of the year. So, January 6th, our first podcast for the year will be at 8 p.m. We're going to move to an earlier time, get more y'all on here and interacting with us. That way, it's kind of good for everybody on the East and West Coast. So 8 p.m. starting in January. And then there'll be a couple more announcements coming out throughout the week. Just keep an eye on the page. And as far as that goes, y'all have a wonderful night. We're going to sign off. Two people.
Two people, two opinions, real talk.
Talk to y'all later.